Why was that one?
Because the English dub was so bad.
So, Troop in the Moss has a long history in Cumbria. Its original associations are with bands of renegades who would kind of live in wild and outdoor places, and carrying on the traditions of Troop in the Moss. The Mosstroopers were initiated by this gentleman on my left, Mr. Tim Elvin. For the first anniversary of Soulfest, or for the very first Soulfest. So for the first anniversary of Soulfest, the second year that Soulfest ran, Tim composed a set of tunes and put together a scratch orchestra of folk musicians to perform at Soulfest, and that tradition continued for a good long period of time. And then after a small hiatus, Cumberlandia emerged in the glades around Workington, and the Mosstroopers resurfaced and came out of the undergrowth. And last year, Tim put together a new set of tunes, and this is reviving the tradition of each year and a fresh set of tunes to grace the glade with and to bring people together. So please give a huge welcome to the 2025 edition of Mosstroopers!
Thank you very much. As Dave said, we are the Mosstroopers. For those that haven't met us before, there's a kind of ethos that works, which is a bit unusual with Mosstroopers. Earlier in the year, I get the privilege to email and write to a few people and go, do you fancy playing some tunes at Cumberlandia? And they normally go yes, which is lovely. And I write a complete set of tunes, and they arrive in the post in a dreaded brown envelope. And these marvellous musicians have to try and turn it into something for this morning. We don't ever get together as a group, so this is the first and only time that this group will play these tunes this morning. I'm not even sure, I know some people are counting, I don't even know how many people are on stage today. We've had a few little mini gets together, but the patchwork quilt gets put together this morning for one and only time, and that's part of the fun of it. We're having a great time up here. If our faces don't show it, it is concentration, not us being moody. That first set, there were 3 tunes in there. The first one was written for all those people who would love to have a go at stuff, but then when you go, come on, have a go, and they go, oh no, I really couldn't. But you should, and it's a tune called The Reluctance. And the second tune, we were going to have some musical to get together earlier this year, and part of the attraction was that there was going to be parking involved. And then for very good reason, which I can't dispute, the practice got cancelled and it got postponed, but the parking has never materialised.
What? No parking?
Yeah. And as you will have picked up from the basses and the cellos, there's still a lot of angst underneath there. I'm fine, I've got over it, but I'm not sure underneath. That was a tune called What No Parking. And the third tune was a real, we've been going a long time, so we're not quite as young as we were, and it's called 50 pence for the metre, which is what we personally need at the end of that tune. So that was the first set. We'll move on and I'll start rabbiting. The second tune, there is an amazing, lovely fiddle-Latin person called Amy Walkinshaw, who used to be in this area, used to play with Mosstroopers. A lot of you will know her. She now lives in the furthest northwest regions of the Highlands, which is a shame for us. Anyway, a year and a week ago, she had a lovely daughter called Peggy Wren. And it's traditional, you write a tune for new children. So I wrote a tune called Peggy Wren. It's a 6/8 pipe march, and it came from me being stuck in a really weird conversation. I wasn't in it, I was just surrounded by it, about the right tempo for a 6/8 pipe march. And Scots guys get really keen on it and they go, no, 71 beats per no, 92, no, you're rubbish. And it was completely quashed by a really old pipe major going, the right tempo is when your kilt swings. And if you try it, he's absolutely right. So we will try and get the tempo right. So 6/8 pipe march called Peggy Wren. there's going to be a long... We're on Dylan, yeah. There was going to be a long spiel about this one. I'm going to cut it completely. It's unfortunately Arwen, who's going to clog, is injured, and this was a set of tunes written for Arwen to clog dance to. But we have the amazing Kath, which is fantastic. So to cut a very long intro short, I got in a lot of trouble last year for writing a tune with some weird stuff in it, and Arwen said, actually I don't mind, but I just didn't know about it, and it was fair point. So you have to be careful what you ask for. So I wrote this tune, which is in 7, apart from the bits that aren't. And then there's a reel afterwards as well. Thank you very much. That was grand. This next one means a lot, just kind of to me, but I didn't realise how much until I thought about it a little. So if you indulge me for a moment, I'll just try and put it in context. Because although this is my context, everyone this morning will have their own context, so they can put this tune in. I've just retired from a lot of years at the very pointy and raw end of emergency medicine as a paramedic and then working in A&E. And during that time, I've delivered babies in odd places, and I've held people's hands as they drift away, and just about everything in between. And it's a really special, privileged thing to be able to do. But I've been utterly supported by the people I've worked with, and the teams that I've worked with are just amazing. And there's a difficulty around here in this beautiful area, is that it's really, really remote. And although the emergency care is great, the next bit isn't very near, and people are 2.5 hours away from a lot of treatment. An hour is common. And because of that, we do stuff differently. And oddly, both organisations I worked for got kind of taken over while I was there, amalgamated, taken over, whatever you like. And I didn't get why we did things differently to the centre of Manchester. But we do. And because of that, they do now, but initially it was really weird. And because of that, they gave us nicknames. And oddly, both organisations gave the people I was working with the same nickname. And it was slightly disparaging. They're Westies. Don't mind them, they're Westies. And like many, many people who have labels, you turn that label round and you use it as an identification. You become utterly proud of being a Westie. So I know there's actually a few Westies in the audience. Yay! Anyway, so it seemed appropriate I'd sit down and write a really nice thank you, cheerful tune for the Westies. So I did that, and this tune welled up instead. So this is a tune for all of my work family called Westies. I'm playing it for them, but we're also playing it for anybody who has ever been labelled, anybody who wants to turn that label round and turn it into a place of identity. And we'll also play it for anybody, and there's plenty here, who gloriously just do things a little bit differently. Thank you very much, that's lovely. We got tempo a little bit now. We'll play a couple of reels. I think now would also be a nice time to take this festival full circle. And those of you that were here Friday evening, I found out for the first time about someone who I didn't know existed and someone I didn't meet, but I feel it's someone I would like to have met. So we'll play this set of 2 reels for Bridget Parry.
Hilton.
Bridget Hilton, oh my God. Kate Parry, Bridget Hilton.